affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Houston, Texas. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Our expert this morning, which is for the next 50 minutes, such an important topic, but my little monologue, which is usually pretty short, is a little bit longer with this expert. First of all, he has been with us for 12 years. He I guess I respect him more than anybody when it comes to his business knowledge, his knowledge of tax relief. And I respect him because to be in this business, in the tax resolution business for this long and survive is a story in itself. Today, we've got Barry Fowler. He's the president and founder of Taxation Solutions. He's also considered an enrolled agent. He's licensed to represent taxpayers before the Internal Revenue Service. I know that's not a great word to wake up to early in the morning, but listen, this man can change your life if the IRS is chasing you. His experience in the tax and finance industry spans well over 30 years, and we are so lucky to have him. We get so many people write us. It's amazing. Instead of writing the expert, they always write us, mainly because it's really easy to find how to write us. And we get so many of your letters thanking us for bringing a show like this, but they love the humor that Barry brings, the knowledge he brings, and this is something I really agree with. He's so humble. He really is. Let me introduce you to our expert, Barry Fowler.
Hey, good morning, Steve-O. Man, it's great to be here.
Barry, we do 2 shows a month for the entire 50 minutes. And when I see your name on the calendar, it's like I look so forward to doing your show. It is the easiest show to do. It is one of the few shows I don't need any notes at all. But people love our banner with you and I.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great show. You know what would be fun? So we've been doing shows together with you for, 12 years, probably a little bit longer than that.
Yes.
But the very first time you and I got together, my wife and I came out to Florida.
Yes.
And so
I remember the restaurant.
Yeah. And we were actually in the studio recording our first radio show and actually doing it with video and everything. That would be really cool to come out and play one day, or at least segments of it. We have to go back.
I still have it.
Find that.
The radio station has been sold like 3 times since then. But hey, time changes. But Barry, you know what? I'm like sometimes really in awe of you because, see, I do a lot of due diligence and I look at companies like Taxation Solutions, and I see these big national advertisers. And then you go back 2, 3 years later, and they're no longer in business anymore. I mean, there is a reason why you have been in business for as long as you have.
Well, it's following through with what you say you're going to do. You know, we work really hard with our clients to get them to get in compliance with the IRS, do the things that we need to do so we can settle their debt. You know, whether it's an installment agreement, whether it's partial pay installment agreement, whether it's putting them in non-collectible status, or even, you know, getting that pipe dream of the offer and compromise that, you know, you have everybody nationwide trying to sell you, you know, on that. They don't even vet or check to see if you're going to qualify. They just sell it to you. And we refuse to do that. You know, we had a client call the other day and talked to them, thought we had a really good rapport and they were going to be with us. Well, I told them point blank, they're not going to qualify for an offer and compromise. They had too much income coming in, too much equity in their house. Even though their income was going down, the equity and the other assets they had was more than enough to pay the debt. And they went with somebody else. They're going to charge them more. And they said, oh, yeah, we can get an offer and compromise. I had to stop and just go, okay, that is not possible. I've already given you the reasons why. No, you're wrong. Okay. You know, go ahead and do what you need to do. When they can't get it done, feel free to give us a call back and we will
Yes.
put the right plan in place for you. Unfortunately, you're spending a lot of money for something that you're not going to qualify for. So the IRS has certain qualifications that you have to meet in order to get an offer and compromise and have that debt lowered. Now, they had other options, and we explained those options to them of doing like a partial pay installment agreement to where they would still pay less than what they owe, but they would have to pay the IRS over the statute of limitations, which in their case was only about 4 more years. But that would have been the right way and the best way for them to go, and would have saved them money. And we wouldn't have had to go through this offer and compromise and stop the statute of limitations and all the other things that come with it. So, you know, you kind of got to watch who you're dealing with. And that's kind of why we work really hard to keep our reputation. And we're not going to oversell for something that we can't do because you don't qualify for. And we're going to work really hard to make sure that you stay in compliance so that you don't lose the program that we've put in place that's going to save you money.
Barry, one of the things I've learned from your show is that people try to think that they can handle this themselves, whether it's I'm going to save myself some money or I can deal with them. And what I have learned is when people try to handle it themselves, more than likely they're going to screw things up. And when they get to you, it could have been so much easier if they would have contacted you in the beginning and let you handle it for them.
Absolutely. 9 times out of 10, taxpayers are going to make a bigger mess of their tax situation than being able to settle it. You know, I've seen some people go through and get themselves an offer and compromise. Great. That's wonderful. Other people have made such a big mess out of it that they've applied for offers and compromises 2, 3, 4 times and made it even twice as hard for us to actually get the right solution in place because they think all we're trying to do now is delay like the taxpayer was, and it gets yourselves in more trouble. My wife loves the example here is that if I have an electrical problem at the house, I'm not allowed to touch it because I'm going to make it worse. I think she's more afraid I'm going to electrocute myself and then she'd have to
Yes.
deal with the whole ranch herself. But, you know, we call the electrician in and it's a lot easier for the electrician to come in and take care of it the first time than after I've gone in and screwed everything else up. Trying to install a ceiling fan and add a new switch. I started doing that. The guy, my wife followed up as soon as I touched that ladder and had some wires. She went, I'm calling our friend and he's coming out to do this. Get off. Okay, fine. He came out and he goes, "I'm just glad you didn't touch this because you would have screwed this up." Hey, that's sometimes the way we feel with taxpayers is we're very happy when you call. We will give you the information you need to make a decision. Whether it's using us or using somebody else, we want to give you that information. And I mean, it's a free phone call. It's a free consultation. There's no charge to call in, talk to us, tell us what the problem is, no judgment. Um, you know, we're going to try to give you as much information as possible. And then you can make the right decision, whether it's using us or using somebody else. But you have the arsenal and you're armed with the ability to make that decision. But it does start with a phone call to us at 877-996-6477. Again, 877-996-6477. Or, hey, if you're out there driving or someplace, don't try to write while you're driving. Just remember taxationsolutions.net. Again, taxationsolutions.net. You can go there. You can get our contact page, schedule an appointment. We'd love to talk to you and at least walk you through, what's going to happen and how we can solve the problem with the IRS and what solutions are available to you and the options you have.
Barry, you brought up your wife, Meg, and I got to tell you that we had a call after the show last time, which we gave him your number. He said, you need to give that IRS playbook more announcements. And you even, listen, you gave your wife, it was her idea, but we need to start promoting your IRS playbook because it is such an incredible idea that Meg came up with.
I give her all the credit, probably for
You
everything
do.
in life, but she inspires me and gets me to do things that, sometimes are not the easiest things to do, or you think, hey, I shouldn't do this because it's giving away too much information, or not helping us sell and bring in more clients, and they're going to take this and run. But my wife looked at me and she goes, those people want to do it themselves. Those people want the information. Let's get it out to them. So we developed the IRS playbook. You can go to irsplaybook.info. Access the playbook, 3 simple steps to solving your IRS problems. We call them simple steps because this is steps that we use and we've been using for years to solve our clients' tax problems. Now, yes, you can get yourself in some trouble because you do things wrong, but it's something you can go out there and look at, and maybe you only owe $2,000 or $3,000 or $5,000, and you want to put that solution in place. You're not going to necessarily qualify or want to go through doing an offering compromise, but you might be able to get in non-collectible status. You can use this to get yourself there. But if you go to irsplaybook.info, you can get the information there. Love to get that out to people. My wife looked at me and went, hey, this is my idea. We got to run with this. Will you do this for me? And I went, yeah. So we put this together and we've been helping people. We refer people over to it, even if they choose not to go with us and they're looking to possibly do it themselves, or they may even decide to go somewhere else and then come back to us, because a lot of our clients, when we get them, they've gone somewhere else and found out that they were totally wrong or incompetent. And then they come back to us and use us to actually put a good solution in place that saves them money. Or, hey, if they've got the money, it puts them on a payment plan that they can afford. And that's what our goal is to help people all across America. Whether you're here in Houston or whether you're out in Florida or up in New York or wherever you may be, I've got clients in every single state in the country. And, we help them regardless of where they're at. So if you got friends or family that owe money, have them call us as well, or refer them to irsplaybook.info.
Barry, I got to tell you, I'm kind of proud of myself. I did something about 2 months ago with your show. I think it looks like most of our listeners are on iHeart or Spotify. And I changed the search words for your show, or I added some to truckers, IRS, truckers. Um, there was two search words I used, and I put truckers in there, and we literally got 3 calls from people uh, that listened to the show about you work with a lot of truckers, and I guess that's how they found out about us because our search words now we've got uh, 2 or 3 with the word trucker in it and IRS. Tell people what you do for truckers.
Well, this started a few years ago, actually, probably closer to 7 years ago. Um, we've been working with truckers all along and helping them solve their tax problems. I mean, truckers are on the road. I mean, the last thing they want to do is do their taxes or bookkeeping or anything else. They want to drive the truck, they want to bring in money, they want to come home and spend what little time they have with their family before they get back on the road and do it all over again. And we had people that we solved their tax problems and their tax issues come to us and say, hey, Mr. Fowler, you've been working with us and helping us do this. Can't you do our bookkeeping and do our taxes? And I went, well, we're a tax relief company. No, seriously, we don't want to be in trouble anymore with the IRS. Who do you recommend, or can you do it? And so out of that grew our sister company, Trucker Tax Tools, and you can go to truckertaxtools.com. It focused all around bookkeeping and taxes for truckers. So if you're an over-the-road trucker, owner, or operator, we do bookkeeping, and we do it at a really low cost. Now, people go, yeah, okay, low cost. We start at $25 a week for bookkeeping. I mean, that's just a little over $100 a month to get your bookkeeping done for your trucking company. Unbelievable price. Even my wife, who's full of great ideas, went, can we afford to do that?
Yeah, really.
And she goes, are you going to start sending this stuff overseas because that's that cheap? Oh, no. Everything is done here in our office in the United States. That is the only way we will ever do it. We've had people that compete with us that send stuff overseas to be done to get a lower cost. We have people that, have come to us and said, hey, you can send taxes over to India or whatever and get it done cheaper and you make more money. No, we keep it here in our office. This is the only place it will ever get done. And so we help truckers. We help them maximize their profits, minimize their taxes, keep their life organized, actually be able to use a financial statement to see, hey, am I operating this business correctly? Am I making enough money doing this? Maybe I can add another truck to this business and make more money. Those are all things that you can use financial statements to be able to look at and see how your business is going. And we do that at truckertaxtools.com. You can call us here at Taxation Solutions at 877-996-6477. Again, 877-996-6477. And we'll talk to you about Trucker Tax Tools. We'll even help you get signed up with Trucker Tax Tools to save you money and do bookkeeping. And like I said, we start at $25 a week. And if you're not a member of Owner Operator Independent Drivers Association, OOIDA, we'll also pay for your first year's membership over there as part of you coming to us at Trucker Tax Tools and doing your bookkeeping and taxes with us. Something we like, we work really well with OOIDA. I even speak at OOIDA's Truck to Success seminar, which that seminar is really for future owner operators, basically people that have been driving a truck as a W-2 driver and now want to move out and become an owner operator, or even owner operators that are possibly looking to expand their own business and learn more about getting your own authority and all the rules and regulations you got to go through. And I go up and speak at their seminar, which is in October, and I do it complimentary for OOIDA and talk to truckers about bookkeeping and taxes, lease purchase, and all that. So we're very involved in the trucking business and trying to save people as much money as possible, especially owner operators.
Is it hard getting truckers to save their receipts, Barry? Because that seems like it's really important.
Well, we make it really easy. I mean, we have a secure portal for everything, so they can send us their bank statements, their settlement statements, their cash receipts, and everything else all goes into this portal, and we make it as easy as possible for these guys, because we know being on the road is hard. It's hard
Yeah.
enough when you're in business and you're running, your local place, but when you're on the road, imagine trying to keep up with that in your 18-wheeler. You definitely not sitting there filing paperwork while you're driving. At least I hope not. And having a file folder there where you're actually sticking receipts and everything else in when you could take a picture and send it to us. We make things as easy as possible. We make life as easy as it can be when you're out there on the road, and then never have to worry about it when you get home and sitting there with your wife and family. And that's where you want to spend the time when you are home, not sitting behind a computer trying to do data input and do your own bookkeeping. And then, did I get all the deductions? That's how we try to make it as easy as possible for truckers.
We've learned with your show, especially, Barry, that because I watch the numbers, and it's amazing how many people go back and listen to your show after it's done. The numbers are constantly changing. But I want to bring something up, Barry, that I've brought up before during the show. I'm kind of a nerd. I kind of look at Google reports and I really do due diligence on companies. And the tax relief companies, and I'm talking about these big national ones that have a celebrity doing their commercials. When you go back and you read what people wrote about the company, the first thing that was said was they were very quick on taking your money, but after they paid, it was the big, I mean, this is like a huge percentage, Barry, that it was so hard getting them to return a phone call. And when you're in trouble with the IRS, you got to kind of have to know what's going on or what's being done. And most of these people were so upset because the customer service was horrible. And I know how important customer service is to you.
Oh, absolutely. It's communication, communication, communication. It's kind of like when they talk about real estate, the 3 words, and the main thing is location, location, location. Well, to us, it's in this industry and being of service to our clients, it's communication, communication, communication. And it's always at least 2-way communication. We need communication back from our clients as much as you need the communication from us. We get people telling us we call too much. Which kind of amazing in our business. Okay, leave us alone. Don't call us. No, we got to stay in contact with you, because there's going to be a point in time that the IRS has deadlines that we've got to move on really quick. And we got to know that you're available to be able to do it. Plus, this is your tax problem. And you need to know that we're staying on top of what's happening with the IRS. So us communicating, we're telling you, hey, this is the status, this is where we're at, or this is what we need, or this is the deadline that we're facing right at the moment. Or, hey, if you got an offer in compromise, it sits out there waiting for the IRS to process it for 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. I've had them out there as long as 15 months waiting. And we've got to be in communication with you to make sure that A, nothing's changed that we are not aware of. Because the worst thing you can do as a client is surprise us at the last minute that all of a sudden you went from a low paying, let's say $20,000 a year job to a 6-figure job. Well, that affects life. That affects the offer and compromise. And that's communication that we need. We had a client just the other day. He's been complaining that, the offer and compromise hasn't been processed. We get to the stage where the IRS is processing it. And right as we're asking for new paycheck stubs because the IRS required it, he goes, "Oh, yeah, by the way, about 6 months ago, I just took a new job and I'm making $150,000 a year."
Oh, wow.
Well, communication, we've been calling you. You could have told us. It affects the offer and compromise. That's why communication is so important to us. And it's got to be a two-way communication, keeping us up to date. Now, we found another solution for him. We got him into a partial pay installment agreement, and we still saved him quite a bit of money. But that communication, we could have withdrawn that offer a lot quicker and got him into the plan a lot quicker as well, and been able to save him money as he was going through this. So, in our industry, people don't believe in communication. A lot of times you're going to see some of these larger firms that are out there nationwide that will sell you everything and anything that you want to hear. And that's the reason we refuse to do that. We want to be upfront, honest, tell you, hey, this is what we can qualify for. Now, we may get into your situation and we told you, hey, you're going to get an installment agreement or a partial pay installment agreement. And we get into the situation, we're able to help you change your finances and do a couple of different things. And now you qualify for that offer. Now we're going to go to the offer because we were able to help you modify what you had to make things work to qualify for the offer. And not everybody should go into an offer and compromise, because it does come with a lot of baggage and a lot of requirements. And you may not be able to meet those requirements on a consistent basis for the time period the IRS requires.
Barry, we just got a text from, it's from Galveston. And we talk about this all the time. Question is, and you've answered this many times, and we're glad to do it again. What is this Fresh Start program? Is it really for real? I know you get this all the time.
It's an IRS program. So don't think it's some company that came up with the idea of Fresh Start. I mean, it's the IRS's Fresh Start program. I call it the Fresh Money program. Is what I do. It's the IRS way of getting fresh money into the coffers, and it's coming from, guess who? You. What the Fresh Start program was developed is to get people that have been delinquent on their taxes or delinquent in paying back into a paying, contributing taxpayer. Now, that Fresh Start program has many different programs to it. It's everything from an installment agreement to non-collectible status to partial pay. They try to make it easier so you can get into an installment agreement without as much paperwork. But is that the right way to go? Can you afford the payment that the IRS is telling you got to make? They think you can. You may not be able to. They give you options to get into offer and compromise. They make it sound like it's going to be easy. It's not. There's still thresholds you've got to meet in order to get an offer and compromise. When you hear this on the radio and people are selling you on this idea, it makes it sound like it's their idea and it's proprietary to them. No, it is an IRS deal. Every one of us that's in this industry can use everything in that Fresh Start program, but using what's in the Fresh Start program doesn't make it the right way to go. Knowing how to work within the rules that the IRS has and find every deduction that the IRS allows you to use and every expense that the IRS allows you to write off for an offer and compromise or a partial pay installment agreement or just an installment agreement is the way that you use this code to the best benefit of you, the taxpayer. And that's what you really need, is somebody that knows the code inside and out like we do, that can help you get onto the best program that works for you, not what sells the best.
Craig in Sugar Land wants to know, if you're audited, are you red flagged with the IRS forever?
No, you're really not. Great question out there. And glad to hear people from Galveston and Sugar Land, and, get your questions in. One thing I'm going to tell you, and I'll get back to the red flags here real quick in a second. If you got a tax problem and you're getting letters from the IRS, my board here has authorized me for Ask the Experts in today's show. The first 3 people that call in, we're going to do tax analysis for free. That's a $1,200 savings right there. We've been offering them at a discount. So anybody else that calls in after those first 3 will get a 50% discount on tax analysis. But you do have to call 877-996-6477. Again, 877-996-6477. And mention Ask the Experts, and we will get you that free tax analysis for the first 3 and 50% after that. Now, we're going to be limited in how many people we can take in total, because we want to continue giving great customer service to every one of our clients that uses us. Now, audit red flags. You get into an audit, if you don't answer the audit and you continue to have the same problem, yes, they're going to continue to audit. They may bring in a year or 2, depending on what the audit shows. But if you got somebody working with you, and we can help you with representation on an audit if you're going through it, helps you a lot, because sometimes we can keep them to that 1 year. And if you've got the support, whether it supports everything 100% or not, if you've got the support to get through this audit, we can keep them confined to that year, unless you've significantly committed fraud in the reporting. Then you may have problems where they start going through a lot more years than the 1 year they're looking at. And sometimes the audits are 2 years. Maybe you left off 1099 NEC for contract work that you were doing, and the IRS sees that it's underreported income, but you really didn't make much money or didn't make any money off of it because of all the expenses. So you didn't feel it needed to be reported. It still needed to be reported. The IRS got the income information there. And so therefore, that's the reason they came through and audited. You're not being picked on. It's their matching program. I mean, the IRS is getting better and better at using computer systems to match 1099s, W-2s, interest, brokerage statements. Any informational reporting that the IRS gets is now starting to be matched against all tax returns. And they've been doing this over the years. Yeah, their systems may be antiquated in some respects, but they still have the ability to do it. And the systems will automatically also poll based on statistics and other information people for audit. So you're not necessarily being picked on. It may be something that was left off. But if you left nothing off your return, you may have been one of that unlucky 1% or less that gets audited. And now you've got to deal with the IRS. And I still say you don't do it alone, even if you're 100% comfortable that you've got all the information. It's nice to have somebody that's a go-between between you and the IRS. And then once you hire us, you never talk to them. I've only been to a couple of audit meetings where we've done them in person. And they summons the client to come with me, or the taxpayer to come with me at the same time. Basically, we allow them to introduce themselves and say hi, sit back, keep your mouth shut, don't say anything else, and let us handle it. Because the worst thing you can do is start responding to questions. Matter of fact, I'm trying to get you out of the room and out of there as quick as possible so that I can just sit there and deal with the IRS auditor. And that's the way we try to work with the people, so that you can have little bit easier life and less nervous about what the IRS is doing, because they don't make me nervous because I've been dealing with them for such a long time. I actually enjoy the challenge, enjoy the confrontation and stuff with the IRS, because I'm there to support you and support what you've got on your return wherever possible. So I get the fun of defeating the IRS, one-on-one. So let's take care of your problem. But again, it takes you calling us to get started. And that's 877-996-6477, whether you've got debt with the IRS, audits going on with the IRS, or, hey, you're just really not sure. They're just sending you letters, but you don't know why you owe. Our tax analysis, we pull all the information on you and what the IRS has and what correspondence the IRS has been sending and where they're at with collections, so that we know exactly what we've got to do to solve the problem and get the IRS off your back. Or as I like to say, get the tax monkey off your back.
There is such an art to what you do, Barry. People don't realize these agents, these IRS agents, they're so well trained, and just to
Funny.
take them on
That
by
is absolutely
yourself.
funny, Steve-O. Well trained. Come on.
Well, I know you know more than most of them do. Barry, you know what? We also hear from a lot of people that they love your stories. And I got to tell you, I'm sure you have seen so many people who went to a bad tax preparer and then they came to you. Can you share any of those stories?
Steve, we get people that have come to us and, they have talked to their neighbor, or even better yet, we've got the wonderful truck stop tax experts. Your fellow truck stop guy, your fellow trucker, or hey, even the bar going tax experts who know everything. I mean, the guys, you see them, they know everything about bookkeeping or taxes, but they've never done a tax return in their life correctly. And, or their guy is the expert at doing taxes because they never have to pay and they always get refunds. And then all of a sudden they're the guys that got audited. Because, hey, to be honest with you, there's some tax preparers out there that don't have the EA, CPA, or tax attorney credentials, but they're preparers. They don't know much about the IRS codes or what is required. They know, hey, this is how I can input things and this is how I can cheat the system. And I can look good because I'm getting my clients or the taxpayers refunds. Because really, at the end of the day, that's all. Everybody wants a refund.
Right.
Good, bad, or ugly. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of them don't ever read the tax return. They don't look at the numbers on there. They just sign. We make every one of our clients look at a draft and approve a draft before we'll ever send it to them to sign. Because we want you involved in knowing what's going on and answer any questions you may have. But when you're dealing with a truck stop bookkeeper or tax preparer, they're going to tell you whatever you wanted to hear. And they're going to try to get you a refund. So they exaggerate or enlarge your expenses that you've never had. I've seen people where they've added a Schedule C. The guy's been a W-2 employee all his life, and all of a sudden he moved to a new tax preparer, and he's got Schedule C, which is a small business. And he's got huge losses and takes mileage, huge mileage. And then they're going through an audit 2 or 3 years down the road, and they're going, well, I never knew there was a Schedule C on there. What is that? Well, it's a small business. Well, I don't run a small business. Well, obviously the tax preparer got this information from somewhere. Well, he just got me a refund. I shake my head over these things at times because you go, most people should be smarter than this. But most people, when they hire somebody, they try to put their full faith and trust in them. And that's when they get messed over, and all of a sudden, hey, they're in trouble. Sometimes in life, things don't look right, smell right, taste right. you shouldn't go through and do them. You got to ask the questions. How am I now going to get a refund that I'd never have gotten before? What's different? Look at the return, do a comparison, and look at what's going on in your return. Read it. If you want to know about taxes and you want to know what we do in tax returns, when you look at your return and you have questions, we're going to answer the questions. Somebody on my staff is going to have an answer for you to be able to tell you, hey, this is why you owe money. This is why you're getting a refund. This is what the numbers are. If you're a trucker with Trucker Tax Tools, you're going to be able to go back and look at the financial statements and see the financials that we've been giving you every month, which come from your bank statement, your cash receipts, your credit card statements, your settlement statements, all the information we're gathering from you every month. And you'll be able to go back and tie and say, okay, this looks correct to the financials that you're giving me. We even do, for every one of our clients, we look down and say, hey, this is the normal thing that you should be deducting as a business. If it doesn't show up on there, we're asking for that information to be able to get you that tax deduction. So, if you're a trucker and somebody hasn't been taking per diems for you and you're an over-the-road trucker, we're going to talk to you about that and get your per diems. We're going to look at your prior year's tax returns and see what they've done wrong so that we can maybe find you more deductions, or maybe what they exaggerated and is wrong, and give you advice that maybe you need to modify or amend that tax return. Those are all things we do to help our clients because of the horror stories and things we've seen over the last 30, 40 years of doing taxes for our clients and helping them save money and keep them from going through those dreaded audits with the IRS, or even have those dreaded IRS letters that are coming in demanding money.
Gerard in Montrose, I have two questions. First of all, I'm really enjoying your show. I found it by accident and I was going to listen for a few minutes, but I couldn't put your great show down. I have two questions. One is, does your company handle property tax negotiations? And my second question is, who is responsible when a tax preparer files a false return?
Well, Gerard, thanks for the question. First off, no, we don't handle property tax. That has not been in our forte of doing. Matter of fact, if you've ever been anywhere near Harris County Appraisal District and gone through one of those property tax reviews, or you're protesting it, I don't like being down there.
Hey, don't let Meg hear this, Barry. she might have a new business for you.
No, she's not going to have a new business. She's seen me in action with the property tax people, and I cannot keep my mouth shut. Yeah, the horror story behind that is I protested one time, and I knew I was absolutely correct because I had all my ducks in a row. So I decided to take it past the initial protest and go to the board. And in that board, basically, I listened to them basically railroad me. And I just couldn't keep my mouth shut and had to say what I thought. And that wasn't turning out too pretty. So my wife said, no, you're not going anywhere near property tax anymore. I can handle the IRS. I can deal with those guys. I just can't deal with the property tax stuff. And nothing against them. They do the job that they're supposed to do. But sometimes you've got to listen to, the taxpayer, the property owner as well. But that's why there's some other companies out there that just deal with property tax, and they do it as well as anybody can. And those guys have more patience for the property tax than I ever would.
How about the bad tax preparer? Who's responsible?
You are.
Okay.
You see at the bottom of the tax return, you've probably never read that box. You're attesting under penalties of perjury that this is true and correct. There's no box for a tax preparer that says this is true and correct. Now, the IRS holds us as enrolled agents and CPAs and tax attorneys, even as preparers, to some standard of due diligence. We've got to do our due diligence. Now, if that preparer has done everything wrong, IRS will come down on them. And the IRS will rain down like fire on them, especially if they've been doing this and, let's say adding Schedule C's and stuff like that to people's returns and put them out of business. But at the end of the day, you owe the tax, you owe the penalties, and it's all going to be held against you until you pay it. Unfortunately, that's why I tell everybody, hey, look at your tax return. Make sure the preparer that you're using is qualified. I don't use just any preparers out here. Our preparers are enrolled agents or CPAs. Those are the people that will work for me in preparing a return. If somebody that is just a preparer works on a return, it's to do data input. But at the end of the day, one of our CPAs, EAs, tax attorneys would be the ones that sign off on the return. And you're going to see either my name or somebody else's name with credentials on the return, not just a everyday tax preparer that happens to have a PTIN number. So, those are the kind of things that you should always look for, because we're going to be held to some higher ethical standards. We've got to follow Circular 230 as being an IRS representative for you, and being that we represent you, the taxpayer. The IRS holds us to those higher standards as well.
Gerard in the Galleria area wants to know, he said, I keep hearing enrolled agent. Are you an enrolled agent, and what is an enrolled agent?
My father asked that same question when I got my EA designation, enrolled agent. And I had to explain it to him. And his first question was, do you work for the IRS? No, Dad, I don't work for the IRS. I work against the IRS.
Yes.
An enrolled agent is actually licensed by the U.S. Department of Treasury to represent you, the taxpayer, to the highest levels of the IRS. Now, that does not mean tax court. That means, the highest levels of appeals and everything that we can do within the IRS. Now, to get your enrolled agent, if you're interested in becoming an enrolled agent, you got to take a extensive test on taxes, tax planning, tax representation, and ethics. Once you pass that test, then you put your application in for your enrolled agent license, and you've got to be fingerprinted and background checked by the FBI. Why? I don't know, but we represent you, so it was no big deal. We get it done. Then every year we got to do continuing education. We got to have 72 hours of continuing education over 3 years. My continuing education runs closer to 100 to 120 hours every 3 years. So we're running somewhere around 40 hours continuing education, so that, hey, I can still be one of the smartest in the industry and help you find every tax deduction or every loophole to solve tax problems, to save you money on your taxes. And that's what enrolled agents do. So a lot of people don't know about the EA, the history of enrolled agents, and it started way back in early 1900s when they decided they needed somebody to help represent taxpayers against the IRS. And so they came up with the designation. Now, when I got my enrolled agent license, that was still pencil and paper test. Now they're doing it on computers, and you go someplace else, whereas in multiple times during the year, ours was one time. You get one chance. And then if you don't pass, you got to come back and do it again the next year, one time, and sit for that test. Thank God I passed it the first time, and been representing taxpayers ever since, and enjoying fighting the IRS every step of the way.
Barry, we only have a couple minutes left. We've been talking about paying taxes and individual, but you also handle business also.
Absolutely.
Not just individuals. Tell people how they can reach you again, for those who are listening on radio or on iHeart or Spotify.
All right. So it's taxationsolutions.net. You can catch us if you're seeing this on YouTube. You can see the scroll at the bottom. So it's, again, taxationsolutions.net. Our phone number is 877-996-6477. Again, 877-996-6477. Or go to Ask the Experts, and you'll find our program there with Steve-O, and you can watch us again.
When's your show, Barry?
My show is Tax Talk for You. We're on Mondays at 10 a.m. Eastern time. I think we're right after one of your Ask the Experts shows.
You are.
And we're nationwide, so we help people nationwide with their tax problems. You can go to taxtalk4you.com and you can subscribe and see all our podcasts. I mean, we do everything from budgeting to, we even did a class of Tax Resolution 101, 102, even bookkeeping 101, 102. So get over to taxtalk4you.com and you can see all our podcasts. And hey, as always, people, man, I always appreciate this. I love the show.
I know.
It's too fast.
And you're going to be back again with us on May 20th at 9:00 Central Time. And we have another show we'll be doing on May 20th. Barry, as always, thank you, bro. Love you, man. You're the best.
Hey, I appreciate it, Steve-O. Thank you.
And that'll do it for us today. Thank you, Rebel. We'll be back again with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Experts show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.